Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by myself, a guest, or callers may not necessarily reflect the opinions of the network. Enlightenment defines the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a subject or situation. Evolution defines the gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. What is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving or receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex person, living on the earth for our soul's experience. Welcome and join me for our Enlightenment Evolution time together. Welcome everybody. How are you all doing tonight? I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. Gauthier on hiatus for 3 years now, coming back to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I'm hoping to go weekly, but for now we're going to go bi-weekly. It looks like the second and last weekend of the month. At least that's what it's planned for. Wednesday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S. That's 7 o'clock Pacific Time. And it's very, very early in the morning in Europe and bright and early over in Australia, China regions. But I am back, everybody, and tonight is a rebirth that is worth a lot of things. And I want to let all of you know who are listening right now, we are taking call-ins today on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. So look at the link in the live chat for wherever you're watching this, whether it's on the Facebook Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, whether it's on the ET Whisper Twitch page, or whether it's on my very own YouTube channel, ET Whisper. Check the comment section now, and I will post the link again. If you click there, you will be brought into my broadcast area. Of course, you will be put on hold, and I will pull you in as we start taking questions. We only have 10 people in the waiting room. As soon as your questions ask, I will ask you to either leave the studio or I'll kick you out if there's too many people here and you haven't left quite quickly, because we want to get as many people in with questions as possible. But before we get into that, let's talk about the rebirth. The last 4 years, 5 years of this time has given the opportunity for many people to rebirth. Rebirthing process. What is that? Well, everyone knows what the birth is. It's an entrance to the portal, mostly through a sacred, divine, feminine being who brings us here and gives us life, the opportunity for our consciousness to go from the place that creates life into the place that lives life. You become separate from this consciousness that you were once one with for the whole 9 months of gestation, and boom, you're off into the world on your own, experiencing a singular perspective, a singular experience, and that's where you get to take your experience from that point out. That's what birthing is as a human on Earth. But what is rebirth? Rebirth is the doing of the exact same thing, but doing so from the inside of yourself. The rebirth of so many people, as we watch people argue and fight and continuously beat each other up for many years over politics, over world affairs, over all those things that they've kind of censored the talking about in most ways. All these different things that happen, boom, you're sat on the side, you're fighting. But the one thing about the world being tipped upside down onto its head, everyone got the opportunity to look deeply inside, to look at yourself, to look at the consciousness within, to look at whatever part of the energy that you wanted to be a part of, and it gave you a very beautiful opportunity to shift your perspective or to stay deeper in the perspective you already had. So for most of us, we saw the things in our life that weren't fulfilling. We saw the things in our life that weren't whole or weren't filled in some way. And we did a couple different possible things with that. One of those things was, hey, we're going to go out and just waste time. So we would watch movies and play video games or do whatever we could with that little bit of extra time that most of us had. And some of us had a lot of extra time because you weren't working, or you were working in a different way, or working from home, or whatever the case was. You took that opportunity to jump outside and do whatever you wanted to, or you threw that time into a distraction of some sort. And all of that's good. All of it brought you a better understanding, because some of us would get lost into that misplacement or into that distraction, and others would pick up new things to do, new distractions, or new excitements. And those of us who were lucky enough to find an excitement instead of a distraction found some new aspect out about our own life that we never knew we had. And those of us who delved in the distractions found a lot of that energy that was not quite exciting enough for us. And then it gave us the opportunity to sit a little while and figure out what was it about that one thing that kept our attention focused, that kept our mind distracted, that kept us busy connecting with that energy alone. So that is the rebirthing process. That is the ability for us to take a new step in life, a new stance, and a new coordinate, a new direction, a new observation, whatever the hell you want to call it. That's what we were doing. And it gave us all a new purpose if we wanted it. And some of us were very content and happy with our lives, so we just lived them and continued living them and didn't let a lot of things, distract what we were doing. In fact, it freed up a lot of energy for a lot of people to be able to just connect with themselves more than they did and realize that, yes, this is the perfect life that I want. These are maybe a couple of little things that can change, or the people in my life voluntarily leaving my life because they didn't want to be a part of my life, or whether it's, hey, I see these people over here who I spent time with, but I really don't enjoy that time with them, or I don't get a lot out of that time with them, or because the world's gone crazy now and everybody's divided, they took that very personal that I didn't stand on the same side with them and threw me away. Whatever the case was, all of us had the opportunity to make very small to very large changes. And that, in my own mind, is the greatest rebirth possibility that we had. A lot of things have been said about resets or reboots. A lot of people are very powerfully interacting with that type of information. And I will say that even if you don't like that idea of a great reset, or if you took it to mean something that was a bit more malevolent in the nature of the way that some other people might have taken it, you still saw beings who were powerful, rich, who kind of give the sway of the world of where technology should go, or where government should go, or whatever the case these people are doing. They would also speak about that reset. And in our own minds, I think all of us have known that the systems that were available for us throughout most of our lives barely took care of the very minimum parts of our own personal lives that we needed, or when we saw someone in trouble, they couldn't get the help that was quite required. You would see drug addicts going in to jail, and you would see people who were poor, who would steal food for their children, be thrown in jail. And you're like, that's not fair. That's not a good system to have. But then rich people who would steal billions and billions of dollars from corporate funds, or steal directly from the people by misleading, they would do that. And because they're a corporation, the entity itself is a person, and can be sued, but no person on the board would get in trouble, or no person who is responsible for making the decisions would get in trouble. And you have politicians, police officers, all of these people who had a greater sense of power or a higher prestige in our own co-creations and our own society structures. They would get in the same types of trouble, go to court, and they could buy themselves out. And it's so frustrating to see that, especially in the United States, poor people Usually, people of color ended up getting a much higher sentencing than someone who would do the same crime for him. So we see all these inequities. We see people not being able to get medical help, and yet other people who are making $50,000 or $60,000 a year being able to get food stamps when they would deny another person for it, depending on what city, state, neighborhood they. All these things we have watched from the beginning of my life. I've been able to see it very early. I was born in 1980, so right now I'm 42. And I spent most of my years observing all of these really, really hypocritical things that would go on. And my dad, I would say, was probably a big force in my life in that too, because he was very vocal about that. He spent 20 years in the military and achieved a rank of nearly E8, which was a master sergeant. And he saw the hypocrisy from the ground up through his military, and he couldn't really talk about it. He could talk with friends about it, but he couldn't speak out about that injustice that he would see or the hypocrisy he would see. But the moment he was able to get out of the military, once he retired after 20 years, then he would talk about it, and he would talk a lot about it. And it made me notice. And to the dismay of my parents, I took that critical thinking and actually used it in a lot of things I didn't like about the life I lived as a child. My family went to church, and a certain church I went to, I didn't care for. The pastor himself became violent with me when he caught a kid that I was hanging out with and spending time was doing something, was huffing inhalants from a can. He caught that kid, and the kid would keep getting it back from the pastor. It was like a lock-in, so everyone was staying there for the whole night and keep hiding it. Well, he blamed me, because I was hanging out with the troublemaking kids. I had some kids come by and try to sell me a gun while I was in church one time. So they saw these groups of people and assumed it was me, and I didn't have anything to do with it. But he still grabbed me up by the neck, choked me, and threw me up against the wall. And I was like, this is hypocrisy at its worst. So that's the thing I hated. That's the thing that was most frustrating and difficult for me to watch and me to see as I would grow up. And now everyone's starting to see similar things. Even though there's still a divide in people on how they're seeing it, they're still able to look at one side or the other and say, hey, this group is crooked because they're doing these things. And I can see in real time how they're trying to manipulate the system. And that's always kind of been a thing for people who've been in politics. They could always say, oh, those darn Republicans are doing this, or hey, those darn Democrats are doing that, in the US and the party systems across the world, either come in two or in small groups, usually not a lot of choice there. Either way, you can look at the other parties and say, this is the bad stuff they're doing, and this is how they're trying to manipulate it to get their way. Now people are seeing it and also starting to pay attention when it comes from their own side. That to me is beautiful. That is a rebirth of awareness. That is a rebirth of being able to see the systems as they're placed in front of us and as they tend to start to fall apart. Because once the illusionist cannot do the hand over the eye thing, the quick hand and switching, one magic card under their sleeve or under the table, or, having the rabbit tucked under the hat before he pulls it out. When you can start seeing what that magician in front of you is doing, then the spell is broken. Then there's no more power over you that they have. The collective has that in them. That's the form of energy that they've started to project into the life and the experience that they want to have new. So a new rebirthing of the entire system. So as much as this great reset scares a lot of people, as much as this idea of a great reset excites some people, I say a great reset is beautiful, but I don't think it should be on the terms of billionaires or people who think that they know what's best for you because they're successful or their parents had billions of dollars when they were born or found a way to lead a corporation. These people are very out of touch with what most people need. I think the Great Reset comes internally and from person to person, from heart to heart, from community to community, and build the experience of what they want inside of their own communities and their own households and their own things. Treb and Ardif have talked about this a long time, since the beginning of Treb, in the connection with the channeling publicly. And as soon as Ardif came in, both of them have always said, people say, I don't want to be under the thumb of a government. I don't want to be under the thumb of a housing board that allows me to put a garage up in my own yard that I paid money with, or whatever these things in life that are so limiting are. How do I get past this, guys? And what did Treb and Ardif always say? They said, be less dependent on the systems that you want to break free from, and you will always have freedom. If you're tired of people putting chemicals in your food or processing food or giving you bad stuff, start growing your own food. If you're tired of having mortgage lenders and banks that own your house be willing to kick you out in a moment's notice, then start trying to build your own thing. Land is much cheaper than houses are. Communities can come together and build it for free if they come together with a few $100s each and purchase a bigger plot of land, and everyone can help each other build a house week by week. These types of things are happening more and more now, but can happen for anyone. Cars, bikes, all these things. There are systems that we're still caught up in that we do want to have a rebirth through or breakthrough from. But these systems also, the more independent you come from them, the more energy you have towards not having them affect you. Because if you don't have to go to the store to buy the foods that you don't like or that you perceive are killing you or poisoning you, and you can go out to your own garden, then you have just freed yourself completely from that paradigm. And it's really a beautiful thing how we can do the rebirthing process in ourselves, and how we take all this weird stuff that has happened in the last few years and start a new experience for our collective. We have to start internally first, and then we have to start with the community. Then the collective spreads its awareness. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of these things that have been going on in the world, what you're going through in this time, what's rebirthing processes have you been facing, where have you found success, where have you found hardship. Now you guys can join me. You don't have to type it through the chat. You guys can actually come into this program with me and jump in and talk just like a caller would on a radio show, and come in and join me just by clicking the button. You'll have to type in your name. Don't put in a name you don't want anyone to see or hear. So don't put your whole name out. If you don't want your whole name, just put your first name or a nickname. Come in and join me, guys. I'd love to hear from any of you who want to do that. I'm sending the link out in all the places. It's the StreamYard.com link, and then it has some letters starting with P Z. So we've got our first person in here real quick. Aaron, hello. How are you?
What's up, Rob? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
It's been a long, long time.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you remember which Aaron this is, but uh, God, it's been so long. I helped you with Evolution Hour when you had George on there way, way back.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably been about 2014, 2013. Yeah, back the first 20 or 30 episodes. Yeah, I remember. It's weird because I'm horrible with names. I'm always good with either voices or faces. And I know about 25 Aarons, but I
Really?
do remember you. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I haven't talked to George for a while. For those of you guys who aren't aware, George was the first person who did the show with me. We did the first 16 to 20 some episodes of the Enlightenment, and back then it was called the Robin George Enlightenment Evolution Hour. And I just talked to him recently. He's doing good, and I'm going to be staying in touch with him too more. We haven't been in touch for a couple of years. We both had very busy things happening, but yeah. So what's going on with you, Aaron? What do you want to talk about? What kind of things are you going through?
Well, I've been on a wild ride. I've been definitely feeling the effects of just basically having to kind of start over and how much difficulty, how much leverage it can be. Um, like you were saying, it's it's frustrating at times because a lot of the protocols and how things are supposed to work just don't work how they're supposed to work. And then people who manage these things are pretty much out of touch with, you know, uh, the human aspect of it all. It's just more of this. You get in situations where this is just the way how it is, and that's just it's the response you get. Like it's got some magical spell attached to it, um, and it's you know it's definitely a hot topic for me.
Well, I think people such as corporations, government structures, whether it's intentional or not, there's always an alchemy or almost an occultish sense behind the actions of all of these people who hold great power. The symbology, symbols in the way that they market, the symbols in the way that they express, the words that they choose, the letters, the fonts, the colors, all of it is steeped very deeply into occult energy. And I'm not saying that that means that they're, part of the Illuminati or whatever, but it does mean that they study human psychology, they study manipulation. Corporations are well known for that. In fact, when Kalina went to college for marketing, that was actually something that they taught them in college, is how to manipulate the emotions and mindset of people to get them to buy the product for you or to get them to change their mind on you. So this is something that's always happened. But what I've seen in the last few years, and feel free, like I said, to agree or not with me about this, but what I've seen is the people who have always done that have always done it quite easily, with great success. Most of people in the population of the earth just say, okay, yeah, 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 we agree with what you're doing. But the last 3 years, especially since the end of 2019, early 2020, more people are like, whoa, 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 hold up, stop this. What's going on? And they question. And when they question, there's almost a sense in the retort or the response that's highly desperate, that's horribly desperate. And that's why we've seen fringe lunatics in politics and government structures and corporations just doing this really crazy stuff that normally they wouldn't do before this.
It's very interesting. Um, I like not to sidechain or anything here, but um, I I do channeling with a friend, and we talk to some alien beings. And one of the things we talk quite a bit about is different political systems, how their monetary, if they even have a monetary system. And then usually when they are looking at our system or commenting on our system, there is just this kind of, what are you guys doing? This is broken here, this is broken there. Um, you guys are there's one being I remember saying that the biggest problem for our monetary structure is that we're all competing with one another. We should be working together. And that I did not know how to respond to that because I never looked at it that way.
Well, it's very true, and depending on the perspective of the being, I've talked to a lot of beings about how our world works, why it works the way it works,
Hmm.
all of these things, and we have a lot of beings who are in the same mindset that say, "Hey, competitive nature can be good on a small scale when you're doing it for each person becoming better, but when you do it to tear down and destroy, then obviously it becomes destructive." So we look at the
Yeah.
age old question about the world and how it's run, and people are saying, the only way that we can go through is by following the great example of America, having a capitalist society, having a free market. And then you have the other people saying, well, that's created great greed, That's why communism is such a much better way. And when I asked Trev, what is the best way? What's the better way to get through? And to have people being more on a level of, connecting with each other. And he said both systems that have been run uh, across the world have never been run in a way where people adhere to the rules and regulations of it or the agreed upon terms. And that's why in the United States, you've seen them make laws that side with corporation billionaires and create
Right.
gigantic gaps in that. And that's why in communism, there becomes a vacuum of power. So the people who are best armed take over. And usually when someone takes over by force, they're already sociopathic, psychopathic, and that creates an even worse system. So, Trev's Planet, the way that they work, they have a school for all the children, and they all go to that school, and they have teachers there, just people who want to share what they know. So any kid can go to any teacher and learn about anything they want, and there's always the right person there for the child who wants to learn something new. And as far as work, nobody makes money, but everybody does what they're excited to do. And when they do that, even with some weird, really niche things that I've seen, like someone who just wants to help other people, they're always able to find an opportunity to do that. But that's because they've been in sync with each other long enough where they've actually become quite able to connect with each other and quite able to feel each other out well enough where they're actually connected with each other. And that's a huge thing for everyone to have that connection and to be able to work with one another.
Yes. I actually, I'm remembering that you did a book, I think, too, a long time ago as well. Um, basically, talking about how on their planet they they already know what they're going to do. They find it, I think, in their higher mind, and they follow a job path that's of their highest excitement. And I remember that was quite something when I remember just hearing and like reading about it because it's uh, it's it's just so different how it is over here. It's almost like that could never work if you were to try to like bring that idea to the table. So I found that very interesting, and it just makes more sense too. Everybody just do what they really want to be doing. I think when you give it more thought. Um, so I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it does. It makes more sense the doing what you want, but humans aren't conditioned to do what we want. We're taught conditionally, even in the smallest, most remote villages, they're always taught this is your duty, you must do this, these are the rules of our ancestors, we must adhere to it. And there's a lot of experience and energy around, hey, basically this is what our relatives have done so much and for so long that we've got to follow. I actually put a meme up on my Facebook recently. It says tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. And that kind of is what is experienced there and everything. But I want to thank you too, Aaron, for coming in and
Yeah, of
calling today
course.
and chatting with me today. And feel free to drop the link if you guys share any of your channeling, drop that link in the chat, and if it doesn't allow it, I will give it permission to go through so you can share that with everybody. But thanks for stopping in, brother. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's always good talking to you, Rob.
Well, it's good catching up with you. It's been a
Yeah,
real
it's been a
long
while.
time. Well, it's nice to see you. Thanks again, brother. I appreciate it. Anyone else who wants to come in, come on in, guys. You guys can come in right with a link that I'm putting up in chat right now. Come join, talk about what's going on in your life, talk about the rebirth process that's happening in your experience, talk about all the things that are itching on your mind, on your heart, in your ear, what you're going through, what you're living through, whatever it is that you want to do. Come on and join us, guys. We're opening the lines tonight for everybody to talk to. And we're talking about rebirth. I've talked about the experiences that I've got. And for those of you who are just coming in, Some of you have only been at the ET Whisper for the last 1, 2, 3 years, and this show was a regular show for many years, and we did over 100 and I believe this is the 116th episode that we've done, and it's been a few years out of it. Our network is coming back up. Kalina is going to be doing her show. We're going to be inviting several other hosts for our network, and eventually we're going to get our infrastructure back for the website and a network. We're going to connect with a lot of different people, a lot of different shows, a lot of different energies. If you're interested in being a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network, you can always contact Kalina, and I will put her email here. Actually, I'll just say it because that way I don't have to worry about any bots picking up. Kalina at etwhisper.com. Me and her are going to go through host. It won't be for probably another month or two before we get the whole network back up and running, but at least you'll have that email address. So if you guys want to, if you've been doing things on your own YouTube channel that you've been sharing with people, different interesting perspectives, if you've never done that, but you've always wanted to, drop us a link, drop us about some of the stuff, and drop whatever you want to talk about with us in the email. Ideas that you have for a show that you might want to do, whatever it is, that would be great. So it's going to be beautiful, guys, to have this network back up and running, because we have a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different ideas, and a lot of different things we want to talk about. Yes, so anyone who wants to call in, come on into that link, guys. Jump in, join me, have a chat with everyone. Tell me what's going on with your life, what's going on with your experience, anything you want to, jump in. And that link's already in the chat for everybody, guys. So something I've noticed too has been a part of our own community with the rebirthing process. One thing me and Kalina have noticed back when me and Kalina first met, we started a thing called the channel panel. And what that was we brought a lot of different channelers together, and we brought a lot of different energies to connect with these channelers. And we would put on events online, live in person, and we'd give the opportunity for everyone in the audience to ask the questions to these entities with different perspectives and energies. And we did that because we wanted our community to have access to the other parts of our community. Our community was so fractured and kind of broke into all these little pockets. We wanted to bring together as many people as possible, both on the channeling side and the people who took any meaning or use from channeling and brought them together. And this was something that Kalina and I had both wanted to do for a while, and we brought it together and created the channel panel. And with that, we started doing events, and we went, I think, 5 years up until Kalina had gotten pregnant. And then since then, we've taken our time off. As all of you guys have known, with the baby, we took a lot of time off. And that's something, the reason why we've kind of been disappeared. But we did that, and we've noticed too now, it's not because directly we weren't here in the community, like we were the two people that brought the community together. That's not the reason why. But we have noticed that the community seems more fractured again. The base group of people that we started off with, a lot of them don't communicate with each other. There's some that don't communicate with me anymore. There's some that I don't communicate with anymore. Some of those are on contentious terms. Others are on really, just innocent terms. Everyone's busy doing their own stuff, so we just haven't had the chance to catch up or talk. But it's very weird to see how that's gone, and to see more individual things happening. And I don't know if there's a real reason for that, but what I've kind of thought myself has been seeing all of these people who do channel, who are used to co-creating with other people, started getting used to co-creating with other channelers. And that was like a good thing. And for many years, we saw that community merge. And then I think when the world kind of went its own way, normally people are splitting up anyway. But friends are fighting about things and dividing. Other people are just growing further apart, and other people are just so wrapped up in what they've got going on in their lives, they just can't connect with anything more than what's in front of them. Their plate's too full. But that energy, that kind of concept, I have noticed now people are starting to gather back up in our community again. And I feel like it's an energetic cycle that's kind of brought by everything. And I really feel like that energy itself is an important one for us to recognize with what's going on in ourselves. For me, I've noticed that a lot of those things that I did, because I was one of the people who tried to distract myself when I had moments to distract myself, which wasn't a lot. With the two kids and with everything in our life, free time isn't really a thing. But I have noticed that in those times, I did have the opportunity to kind of do distracting things, and I would take myself up on that time. I have noticed that those things have been getting less and less appealing to me. Just in the last week, I've noticed how much less I'm enjoying those moments of time where I'm breaking down, not having any responsibility, not having to channel for a session, or not having to change a diaper or deal with any of the kids' needs in any way, or help Kalina with something with the kids, or whatever the thing is. I noticed that in that moment, I have actual free time. It's just not as exciting for me to do that. So I've been putting more of that free time into the channeling stuff, which is why you've seen the result of more of that. But just in the last week, I've noticed that increase even more. And I think that energetic cycle is coming back around, that the shock and awe of all those things that were happening with people, the life flipping circumstance. I think everyone's just settled in. They're like, this is what happened. This is what's going to happen. This is what I'm doing in the future. So everyone's kind of building up their own energy. And like I said, the people who already were kind of going into their own thing and just making small changes and not really too affected by the way the world was going on around them, even that I've noticed, those type of people who told me, hey, yeah, I know it's going crazy for you, but everything's fine with me, are still going through changes now, changes that they didn't see coming. So any of you guys want to drop some stuff in the chat, or come on in and talk about these changes that are going on, talk about what's happening, talk about whatever's on your mind. Let's talk about it. Let's share and get down to brass tacks. I'm going to look through the comments, guys, and check these out, seeing that nobody's in the call room yet. And I know this was last minute. I didn't tell a soul. Kalina was the only person who found out that I was doing this show tonight before the show started. But it took me all day to kind of get everything around to do this. And then I just jumped on. So I know I didn't prepare people, and not a ton of people are here. But if you want to join in, jump in, chat. Let's talk about the stuff that you're meant to talk about, that you want to talk about, that you're excited to talk about, or just the things in your life that have been going really good, really weird, really exciting, or really bad. Jump in and talk, guys. All right, we got Gigi here, who's going to join us in 1 second. Hello, Gigi. How are you? Oh, uh, oh, I see. You have to unmute yourself there and then jump on in, Gigi, if you're ready to.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. How are you? Oh, I'm having a little
My
bit of a
audio
hard
is kind
time
of
hearing you.
funky right now, but I can hear you.
Okay, there you go. Now I can start hearing you. I think we're on a little bit of a delay, so we should be okay. Tell us what's going on, Gigi. Tell us what's happening in your life, the weird, good, fun, or bad things that are happening. Share what you want to share.
Um, well, as of lately, just through the awakening process of getting to know guides and energies around you, I've been having a lot of questions in regards to what's next.
Okay, and we have a little delay, and the last word I heard, it kind of fell off a little bit. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, just the last couple words. We lost Gigi, guys. Sorry about that. If you get back on, Gigi, come on back, and we'll pop you right back on. I heard everything you said except for the last two words. So, um, all right, all right. You are here, Gigi. Can you hear me now? All right, we still can't hear you. It might be on a horrible delay.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. All right, it is on a little bit of delay, but go ahead and start talking. Share what you want to share, Gigi.
So yeah, I wanted to see your perspective when it came to connecting with energies like your guides that would potentially have different type of agendas in what they would want you to proceed in your future then.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Gigi. So a lot of entities do, in fact, connect with humans for different reasons. And the word agenda holds a very heavy energy. A lot of people are like, well, this being has an agenda, and that means that they've got something for themselves that they want. Now, me and Kalina talk about this a lot. The word agenda for entities doesn't always mean that they have something bad that they want. Every entity does have some form of expectation in a return or an exchange in a return with that exchange. And a lot of the time, what I have found with entities that connect with humans, it comes in like one of three categories. The first one are usually the type ones. What they want to do is connect with humans for the benefit of all things. And it's not just humans, it's not just their race. They literally perceive that by each individual entity in the universe that gains more understanding or enlightenment of themselves, that the entire collective grows and expands. They see that if you're growing and expanding, they're growing and expanding. So to them, it's not a selfish thing. It is an agenda because they feel part of that oneness and they also want expansion in their own self. And that's a natural expression of consciousness, I think, for anyone. Then there are type 2s that are benevolent, and those entities, well, let's go to the malevolent beings first. The type 2 beings that are more malevolent, their agendas can be various reasons or purposes, but the most part, their whole desire is to come in and create forms of disconnection or chaos or something that selfishly gains them something. And we'll give example. Like a hybrid program can be something that's very beautiful, or it can be something that's really rough, especially for humans who don't understand or know that it's happening and hear it through a third party or learn it from a dream state or hear it from a channeler. That can be really jarring. So some of these entities are doing that just so that their race won't die. And that might not be a malevolent purpose if you look at the bigger picture. Like, yeah, they're just trying to save their own race. But to personally take away the free will of another being to do that, that is pretty messed up. And most people would see it that way as long as they don't feel a deep connection to those beings. So this purpose is a selfish one. They definitely want their own thing to happen and an outcome to be had. Then you have the more benevolent, and these beings can have a whole different thing than the other two, or they can actually have similar things to the type 2 that are malevolent, but not do it out of malevolency themselves, just do it out of their own beliefs, ignorance, or lack of care about how their actions will affect others. And this can be just as bad in the way it feels when they're connecting with humans or whatever beings they are. But then the type 2 benevolence can also do something for humans that help humans, but also have a personal reason. And it's not a bad reason, but it's a reason. And that reason usually is that a lot of the beings that do connect to humans are connected to humans either genetically, their ancestors gave us DNA, so they're like watching over us and trying to help us, or they're future versions of our own consciousness. So everything that happens on Earth does affect them. And in that case, that's extremely selfish because these beings are coming in and wanting to change what we're doing and thinking so that it benefits them. But out of the selfishness of, hey, I want to mess with a human and make them go a little crazy because I can feed off their negative energy, versus, hey, I'm just trying to save my race, I can be a bit more forgiving about trying to save an entire species of beings. Even though I don't like the fact that they'll manipulate or lie or mislead or just tell you, what do they call that? Where parents do that with their kids? They only give you the parts they need you to hear to make you do what they want, and that's kind of the energy that it really happens. So um, that's my
Mhm.
perspective. But beings, when they're connecting through a channeled state, this is also something that's an important difference. If you're the person who's reaching out to channel and you don't have any real stiff beliefs about only, needing protection or connecting to negative entities or having beings hijack you, most likely you're only going to land with your guides or with a part of your higher self. And that's why when I teach channeling to other people, that's the very first thing I tell people. When you're trying to channel, don't try to channel, you know, um, some being from Glob 4372 in the Orion galaxy. Try to connect to your higher self, because your higher self is you. It's not going to manipulate you. It's going to give you the information that you need to understand, and it will never give you harmful experience in any way. And some people say, well, how do you know you're connecting with your higher self? You'll know your higher self because it never will give you indication that you should be doing something or that you must do something. It's going to inform you and tell you that you're loved and tell you that it's your choice how to deal with anything, and that the best answers always come from you anyway. So that's really an important discernment, in my opinion, between those types of energies and beings. I know we're on a bit of a delay, Gigi, but go ahead and respond to that if you want. And we've got a few other people here in the waiting room. So go ahead and respond to that, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I know about the delay. Have you ever encountered a type 1 being with a type 2? I hate to use the word agenda, but yeah, like a type 2 way of wanting to do something.
Um, no, because type 1 beings, by definition, won't feel a connection to an outcome. They don't care. A type 1 being will say, hey, our planet's going to be destroyed tomorrow. The star is going to blow up. It's okay. That's part of our cycle. We have experienced that. We attracted that. We can leave in our ships and survive, or if we don't make it, it's because we didn't need to make it. They don't have
Mm,
an invested outcome in their minds. They don't really care how things go. um, so they don't have a selfish purpose driver, but there still is an agenda. They still want to see everything expand and grow, but they also have this really strong realization that it's hard for humans to perceive this, but even through actions of destruction and evil as we perceive it, the universe still grows, because the oversoul, the Earth collective consciousness, the solar system collective, the galactic collective, all they want is experience. Everything outside of physical reality doesn't need a good or bad experience. It only needs experience, period. That's why non-physical beings come to physical reality to do that experience. So for them, the worst outcome on a planet of destruction of nuclear war and everyone dies is equally valuable to them for a society that stops having war and lives on for millennia and millennia. All of those are soul experiences, and the body can reincarnate and do whatever other experience that it needs to. So there's no real attachment from a type 1. I would say, even to that point, the type 1 beings have more perspective like a non physical being than any of the type 2 beings do. Type 2s are really tied to their physicality. All humans are type 2s. No matter how benevolent or loving we are, we're still not feeling the oneness completely. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here in third density, playing this experience out over and over and over again, too. So I really don't think that's the case.
Okay, thank you. So it's a matter of just me seeing things through more of their perspective, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely can be that. And it also can be the way that we filter in information. As many people as say, Rob, you're a really amazing channeler because you don't filter and you know you don't do that. I still filter the things Treb and Artif say to me or share with others that I listen to through my own human mind. Even though I have an understanding of it, and even though I have this connection with it, I still filter through my own perspective. But yeah, I definitely say that's very similar. I want to thank you too, Gigi, for joining us. We're going to take another caller. Thank you so much for being here and participating. Sending you all my love. And we're going to bring in Angela. Hello, Angela. How are you?
Good, you?
I'm doing great. It's nice to see you here. Welcome, welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, ever since I saw you on Gaia, I've been really, really moved to reach out. So I have a background in healing and coaching and stuff. I had a pretty major accident a long time ago, and so now moving forward in my work, I've have felt challenged in many ways, because the thing that's always in my face is my vocal cords, and I've been trying to work through the toning to find that alignment to go deeper and higher, but my vocal cords just won't tone, like they're paralyzed. And so it's been a huge thing for me in my healing work, and I'm not sure how to get past that. um, I've done a lot of inner work around it, but I still seem to be getting stuck around this, or my perception of being stuck in in taking my work out into the world, because I did before, and so now I'm being moved to go, but yet I keep seeming to hit that. So I don't know if there's another way I can do that.
Yeah. First of all, I can understand to a degree. I haven't gotten to an accident, but I have had a weakening of my own vocal cords, um, a deterioration of those for the last 2 years. Part of that has been the throat chakra issue that I have. I've always filtered myself very deeply and very heavily when I exchange, especially with people I love, because I always worry about hurting the feelings of another person I love. Even with people I don't know, there's still always that part of me. The old version of me used to say what I thought. I was always more gentle than a lot of my counterparts or friends were. I've had some friends who have zero filter, and they still to this day will tell you exactly what's on their mind. But I always had a much harsher tone when I would approach people, and when I would connect with them. So there was a part of me that fought that a lot, and that resulted in this thing. And luckily for me, I have been able to find out, physically what I need is speech therapy and learn some exercise that will help. So I have a small window of that experience in some way, but it's all relating to the throat chakra. This is one of the reasons why, even though I'm not really prepared, I haven't called guests, I haven't set up a schedule, I haven't done anything. I had to get the show started. I had to get out. I had to share my mind. I had to speak with people. Now, energetically, you're an energy healer. You work with healing. Do you have a certain practice or certain type of healing that you do?
Well, I know that I work with high level beings. I don't know who they are. I just trust that they're high, and I've been able to help people do some major, amazing things through channeling that repair work. But I don't know. I mean, I feel that I'm worthy. I wish I could, have them replace my vocal cords, to be honest. But they're my vocal cords, speech therapy didn't work. They're basically frozen, so they're locked in, and so I've seen some miracles. I call them miracles, but healing with others. I just don't know if I'm not accessing where I need to access to do that kind of work that I know is needed. So
I see.
it's and so basically I go, and then this thing that comes up and says, you're a healer, why can't you heal yourself? And then that's sort of like what you expressed on your the interview with interdimensionals, being things that aren't, that the public sees, that we're faced with our own stuff.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about on a lot of levels. And first of all, I'm sorry you're going through this. It's always rough to deal with something, and the voice is one of the most important things, literally a manifestation of what's in your heart going out. So I'm gonna talk on a couple points of what you shared, and some of it might be a little hard to hear in the way I'm going to share it, but I'm going to share it the way I feel. The first part is ETs. As far as it comes with the healing aspects, like you said, you wish that they could do that. I found that even with beings who are great healers who share their healing with humans, all of that can help temporarily and to a little degree, but 90% of it comes from our own emotional energy and the chakras that get frozen up. And when you say it's frozen up, that would probably indicate a fact that your throat chakra has some severe resistances and blockages in that. And so the throat chakra energy is a tough one because it's not just what we say, it's not just what we express. There's a lot more behind the throat chakra that's important. That's a big part of it. But the first thing is your healer, and not being able to heal yourself sucks. I am a channeler and I can't even figure out when my kids are sick what's going on with them. I meditate, I talk to Treb, I talk to Ardiv, and they're like, well, their guides don't want to connect about this information. They're not going to talk to you about this. Your kids are depending on your instinct as a parent, all these different things that they say. And it's like, Jesus, I can help people through everything that they're going through, but I can't help my own kids. It's devastating.
Right.
It's the most painful, heartbreaking thing in the world. So I feel what you're saying 100%. So the first thing I would say is the throat chakra issue is the big one. And that is going to be the expression of the heart to the voice, but also wisdom. That's where wisdom is held. And wisdom is a funny thing because it ties to the third eye and it ties to the crown chakra. So when you're going through life and you're seeing other wisdoms being expressed in any form, and they're like, hey, my religion, it's the right one. If you don't listen to what Jesus says, you're going to hell, you're going to die. The first reaction I have because of my trauma with churches, I'm like, oh, screw this guy. Or like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy is really fallen for this. Or, oh my God, you can't have a relationship with God through a pastor. You have to have it with yourself, whatever the case is, depending on what they're saying or how they're coming at me. But that right there is part of my own throat chakra issue because I've already taken judgment on someone else's wisdom. That wisdom doesn't resonate with me. It's not my truth, but it still is wisdom. Wisdom is expressed from feeling truth within you. That's why you have two people talking about a pandemic and both of them are telling the truth because in their own heart and their own perspectives, they have that truth and they're sharing it. And the one thing that happens when you do that yourself, it helps the throat chakra. But when you're judging others from doing it, it resists in the throat chakra. So that's one of the big things that's definitely a hardship on it. And the other thing that I wanted to share that might be a little hard to hear too is sometimes it's not only just the energy. Sometimes we need an obstacle in our life that's going to represent the lesson that we need for something. This is why people can get AIDS and cancer and sometimes they get into remission and sometimes they don't, because even though the emotions are what starts most physical things, sometimes it's not just that. Sometimes it's a lot more. And I always give an example that Trev and Art have shared a bunch of times because it was so profound. Someone came to Trev and was like, I need to make more money. I'm very successful, but I want to make more, and my life is tough, and blah blah blah. And Trev shared some stuff with him, and he was like, okay, whatever. He came back to Trev months and months later and said, listen, I was in a horrible car accident. I smashed my pelvis, my legs. I was in the hospital for months. And when I was in there, I lost everything. I lost my car. I lost my house. I almost lost my family because my wife came into me after being in there months and actually spending time with them and getting to actually know my family again, because I never spent time with them. That car accident saved my marriage because my wife told me I was on the brink of leaving you and taking the kids with me, because as much money as you made for us, it didn't matter. We didn't have you there. And the guy ends up also finding out, hey, this guy who's doing physical therapy becomes friends with him. The guy next door, in the neighbor who's in the same room with him, becomes friends, and they start a business together. And he made about 2.5, 3 times more money than he made at his corporate job, doing something that he absolutely loved, a hobby that all of them shared in common. They started a business, wildly successful. In a matter of months, he was making that. So this destruction of his body and permanent pain that lasted for years. Last time I talked to him was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and this was still 5 years after the fact, and he was still in pain. But that brought about the change in his life he needed. So the lesson that he needed, the shift in his experience, had to come in dramatic means, because his beliefs were very stringent and needed something dramatic to shake it. So that could be part of it too. I don't know. Your intuition kind of has to tell you that. But one thing that I can say, whether it's one or the other, when you connect to the heart chakra, that is where the energy flows. That is where the experience of connection helps all the chakras that have resistance. Most of us have had a hard time with our heart chakra lately because we've been so guarded from the world outside of us, or the relationships that have seemed to have gone off the rails. So we connect with ourselves and we kind of focus that inside love as best as we can to keep ourselves, as good as we can emotionally. But it really is time for all of us to kick up the heart chakra as best as we can. Look where the trauma is. Have you ever tried the 10 steps belief system that Trev and Art have always shared with people? Have you ever looked at that and walked through the steps of that?
No, I'm still going through some of your videos and stuff.
All right, I'm going to send you this. This is a tool that Ardif, Treb, me, and Kalina all worked on together and helped create. I want to say 2014, maybe even 2013, probably 2014. But it was this really amazing thing that it's about your belief systems, but it also covers a lot of the traumas that we hold unconsciously, a lot of subconscious belief systems that we don't know we have. Any bad emotional, physical, mental, spiritual thing you're going through, if you put it into this 10 step, it actually does a lot of good for you and a lot of good for that. So I want to share that with you. And sorry, I typed in a message, so I'm going to send that message out. And then I'll put it in the chat. It's really easy. If you go to etwhisperer.com/10 steps, there's a 3-hour video there for free. Everyone can watch it. Also, a PDF that Kalina made that's right underneath that shows the 10 steps. That way, when you listen to it, you don't have to go back and play a 3-hour video over and over to remember what the steps are, because it's a lot. The PDF walks you through it after you've checked it out. So I'm gonna put that here into the chat if you want. But as far as that goes, when it comes to the healing, if you beat yourself up because of that, the same way I beat myself up when I can't help the kids, even though I can do these, it only adds to that heart chakra resistance, to the third chakra resistance, and the throat chakra resistance. So that's not helpful either. Out of everything I've said, are there any of these things that you've either thought of or had insight on, or any of that?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I know that part of this is is because this was probably 12 years ago this happened. So during that time, totally makes sense because I understand that it's retrained how to speak, is retrained how um, to not be in judgment, and that's always, of course, whittling it down. Making fine tunements and the nuances and subtleties of where we judge ourselves and others. So I do feel over time that that's gotten better, and um, and far as others seeing both sides of the stick, or coin or whatever. So I do recognize that the throat chakra has, that damage has allowed me to use that as a tool to teach myself, reprogram myself, and help others with speaking kindly and walking in other people's shoes. So I mean, I do see it as a useful tool. It's just always there. It gets tired. It's so, and other people who are perhaps unconscious, reflecting back that I still have an issue with that, and just doing the "Are you sick?" or "Now you got to put a mask on because you sound sick." It's a little much since the COVID thing, but um, continually making peace with I now sound different, and and talking less versus more. So
Yeah.
it all, less words sometimes is better. Listening more. So it's just in channeling, and because I don't I like I'm not ever channeled like you have. Um, Mine comes through clairsentient. So as long as it feels good, I don't really see them unless they want me to see what it is I'm supposed to see when I'm doing energy with people. It's more like, uh, do you want a new kneecap? Okay, let's give you a new kneecap. It's okay, you want chemo out of your body, let's work on that. Is that kind of energy work. Um, and at some point, that would come in, and then I would have to expel it out through um, I guess, like sort of like energy vomiting, uses sort of like purging, like the Green Mile. And
Yeah.
um, so since that, I haven't done that kind of work because my throat couldn't take that kind of energy work in being able to transmute that. So it has changed over time. Um, and so I don't really uh, touch people. Now you also use hypnosis to do that work. So it has been a little bit more challenging energetically. And so I see this shift. Maybe I don't necessarily need to touch people.
Well, I have a couple questions for you on this note. First of all, when you're trying to do the toning or the singing, does it hurt you, or does it just make your voice weaker, or does it cause any issue, or is it pretty painless as far as it goes?
It doesn't last very long. Like I can't push my voice very long. Um, and then it sort of comes up with some pain because the vocal joints are they're um, they're scar tissued over. So
You froze
it
there.
actually in a low.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, you froze for a second. I noticed too you have your camera setting on. If you shut your camera down on your settings, that might help the broadband a little. No one can see you, but just between the
Yeah.
broadcast. So the reason I asked that too, I heard it, but it was in fast motion. Lucky I caught most of it. So the reason I asked if it was painful, when I first started oming, I couldn't bellow out the oming, and even now it's so much weaker than it used to be. But when I first started, it was literally just the ohm. There wasn't a deep vibrato form of ohm. There wasn't any loud resonance tuning, just the simple ohm. And what I'm thinking is if you do the same ohm, but do it as gently as you can, it's not as much about the sound as it is the vibration in the throat and in the chest and in the stomach. And that's why you hear me going up and down with pitches, because I'm feeling my different chakras as I'm channeling, as I'm getting ready to bring in Trevor Arev. So, and if you just do that in the lightest tone that you can for as long as you can, it can help you with a vibrational sense. Another thing too, that I can suggest as you're going through and trying to work with this voice part, something you said is getting to accept more that my voice isn't the same. And this is something I found with manifesting in anything. When you have a feeling that says, I am okay how I am, I don't need a change, I don't need anything to change, I liked my old voice, but I love the voice I have now. That isn't always just the only trick that works, but that is a big part of the energy with a full acceptance of how the experience is now. Because when you're not focusing on that, you're actually taking energy that focuses in the past to where you used to be, or in the future where you want to be. And going outside of the now is like really the largest part of breaking manifestation and being able to manifest well. So the continuation of practice on that should be really, really great too. And I want to thank you, Angela, for being so open about all this and for joining us today. Thank you so much for doing that. And feel free the next show we do to call back on. All of you guys to come back on. Thank you so much for your time and energy. I'll send all my intention out there. Everybody who feels resonant with sending intention, please send it to Angela for her throat chakra and just her experience in general. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it more than you know.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks again. All right, everybody. I want to say thank you for the super sticker that you sent. And I want to say it's Zainab. Thank you so much for that. And thank you guys all for coming in and chatting. We have time for another caller. If someone wants to call in, you can do that by coming in. And I will send the link for that. I wanted to say hi to you, Megan. Hello. Thank you for coming in, and thank you guys for being supportive of us here. Anyone who wants to come in, we got time for at least one more caller. I'm going to jump off here probably in about 17 minutes or so. So we want anyone who wants to come in and join us to have a conversation, to share with us what you're going through, how it works, what you're feeling, anything like that. Please feel free to jump in. And as soon as you jump in, we'll pop you up and call, and we'll talk about what we're going through as a collective, as a person, as an individual, with your experience and all. I'm going to take 1 minute, guys, to take a quick drink of my water here. So just hold for 1 second, and we'll rock and roll from there. Remember, anyone who wants to call in, the link is in the bottom. Zainab, thank you again with another super sticker. You're amazing. I appreciate the financial support with that. Everything that you guys give, from a simple comment to a heart, to kind words, all the way to donating your money. We know what that means for people. Money isn't free for anyone, and giving that is giving out part of your own energy that you put towards the work that you do, or whatever means of energy you get for your money. So thank you for that too. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to take my drink of water. Anyone wants to call in, please hit the link that's in the chat rooms, and you can jump in and have a chat with me. Oh, Zainab, hello. Please don't. $1, 10 cents. It's the meaning behind it that matters. And you've been sending love through all your kind comments, and every penny counts. And I appreciate that. Like I said, it doesn't matter if it's 1 cent, a heart. See, even Mary gave a heart right there at the bottom of the screen. My sister Mary, wonderful Mary, gave a heart. All that means a lot to us, guys. So thank you, Zainab. I appreciate it very much. And please don't worry. it's more than enough that you do. We don't expect anything when we come on here. We just want to share our own love and our own expressions with you guys. So it's all good. I appreciate it. Anyone else want to jump in? We've got about 10-15 minutes left. The lines are open. Come in and join us, chat with us, talk with us, tell us what's going on in your life, tell us what's happening in the world, tell us what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and all of that good stuff. And we will definitely appreciate every bit of your co-creation. Thank you guys for all the hearts too. We appreciate it very, very much. Thank you so much, guys. And if nobody wants to talk, I mean, I'll keep talking. One thing that I really wanted to focus on was all the things that I've experienced in the last few years has brought me to this place now where I'm starting to feel the opening back up in that rebirth energy. And I'm happy that I get to have an opportunity to share it with you guys, to be a part of all the things that you guys are doing in life, all the things that are exciting for you. We really have had a rough time communicating with people on social media, emails, internet. We just get so far behind. But being able to do this as a part of my own energy and its expression and sharing my heart with you. I always tell everyone, every time I do a live stream, I channel Trevin Ardif, and I am kicked out of the conversation. But one of my most exciting things is talking with people, sharing where their hearts are at, listening, talking back, sharing my hearts with them. It really is one of my favorite things to do. And because I don't get to do that very much when people are on Patreon or on a live stream on YouTube or hanging out in Discord, whatever the case is, whenever I'm channeling, I don't get to have that interaction. So I'm definitely connecting and bringing that energy of my own self here to this radio show to connect with it. Oh, thank you, Megan. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, you definitely take your time, do healing, take your time. I appreciate the offer too and everything. So you take your time, heal, do what you got to do to get what's best for you guys. And I'm trying to look back through the comments too to kind of see where everyone's at. And I see all of the comments I've seen, but I haven't been able to really read through them. All right, we have got someone popped in for our last caller of the night. Okay, hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. Okay, we got a couple people, so we might have 2 calls for this, but yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. How are you going? What do you want to share? What's on your mind? What's in your heart? What do you want to express today?
I guess I'll just go with the heart. I guess identity issues, or I guess when it comes to being, and I'm not really asking for advice or questions, but no one was calling, so I was just giving my something just to maybe ponder about. Like I've been going through, my process of developing, and one thing I had a problem with was masculine energy and using it, maybe. And I've just been on the feminine side, kind of passivity, and I feel like I don't know at what point when to use masculine energy, but uh, I guess through all the hardship when people go through, find themselves when what to do, how to do it, what beliefs to let go, and what to do and what not to do. Even though it is difficult to find the balance point, uh, like personally through me, how I've gone through it, and I've learned so much about how the brain, I guess, works and what beliefs kind of trumps what beliefs at certain times. And I feel like even though the process really sucked, I can, I guess, further help people and um, I guess, further help people to understand themselves and I guess give them little shortcuts instead of going through the grueling process of starting from scratch and going all the way. And I don't know, I'm just rambling. I'll let the other caller talk, but I was just talking just to talk. Appreciate you having me on.
Okay, thank you so much for calling and sharing that. And I do want to just share a little bit of something that Trev and I have always shared with me. about the masculine feminine energy. It sounds like you've got your experience where you're processing it and learning a lot from it. And masculine feminine energy is tricky. A lot of people believe that they should have a masculine energy that either fits their body or their preferential energy. Transgender people, they feel one way, so they feel like that energy. Men who transition to women feel like they should have only feminine energy, and that's every human being holds both, even if it's so different. I know males who are 90% masculine, and normally people would say, well, that's not very healthy to have so much of one. But for that personality, for that person, for their experience, it fits perfectly. I've had to judge myself because in my younger years, I had more masculine energy than I knew what to do with. And now I hold a lot more feminine energy. And I find that it can be a good balance, but also in certain circumstances, it does prevent me from setting proper borders with people, and creating, when someone's being abusive, if I don't stand in my own energy in that moment. And I don't, and that's the thing too, standing in your own energy, feminine beings can be very feminine and still protect themselves and still stand up for themselves. But the masculine energy, with the way that I would stand up for myself, very mentally and expressed through words. And my fear is that the old version of myself comes back, and then I become where words aren't important as just stopping the conversation. And if they don't get my hint by me telling them to shut up, then that's when the physical stuff would start. So that's been really a big problem for me too. I try to balance those two. And I had a moment a few weeks ago where my masculine energy peeked through back to the closest version of old Rob that I've seen. Someone had done something that was really horrible, and I went to talk to them about it. And when I did, they see me following them and saying, hey, pull over so we could talk. And that's like really old Rob, like, hey. And they could see I was mad, and they pulled into a police station. I still just let it out, like, hey, you're an asshole, you're rude, you have no idea what you're talking about, you're being a dick. And it was really bad, but in
But it
that
felt
moment
good.
it was well needed. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
release, and I felt so much better because that one topic that this person did that with was something that I'd been holding in, and something to do with my son and his condition. So I was really, really not having any of that. And it made me feel better. So I just wanted to share that too. And thank you for calling. Even if you ever want to call in and just say, hey, this is how my day is gone, or hey, this is a thought I have. Your presence here is so much appreciated. Thank you.
I appreciate this story. Hey, appreciate it. Take care. I'll leave now.
All right. Thank you, Kay, so much for being here. I appreciate it very much. Jaron, you are our last caller for the day. Hello, hello. How are you? What's on your mind? What's in your heart? What are you thinking? What's going on in life?
Rob, how's it going, man?
That's going okay. How are you?
Man, I appreciate hearing from you. We haven't talked for a while. I had that channeling with you and Treb. I learned quite a bit. I absorbed quite a bit. I wish I kept that conversation, but it's in me now, so it's all good.
That's true. That is true. You hold on to it vibrationally at least. What year was it when we did that?
Man, it was like probably about 8 years ago or something around 2012 or 2013 or 14 or something.
I knew it was a while back, but I thought it might have been around 2015 because, believe it or not, in somewhere in one of my external hard drives, I have some sessions, probably 2016, 2015. So I was like, maybe I still have it. So probably not. Not at 2013.
That's okay. It was a great talk. And man, you're such a sincere person. Like I was hearing you a while ago, and it just like triggered an insight in me because of how you were talking about how you're just being authentic and how I like was spiritually bypassing myself. And I realized, well, I'll just get to what my central issue is now. Right now, like I'm still living with my mom. I'm 33 years old, still living with my mom. Trying to do my passion, like trying to find, okay, what's your passion? That's what everyone says. Find your passion. I still really don't know what my passion is. But I do all kinds of things. Like I'm doing animations, I'm doing a podcast, writing. wrote a few books. I made a few video games. I put them on Steam and everything. And it's kind of fun because I'm exploring whatever works. And now I'm just wondering, like, wow, okay, I guess it's time to maybe I just have to give in and like give up, get a job, be like everyone else, find something in that demeanor like everyone else does to get money and so that I can have an apartment and feel this kind of independence. And a lot of me is like, no, man, don't do that. Just continue your passion. And maybe like I've been doing it for 8 years, though, so on and so forth. And so it makes me feel like, maybe I'm not good enough. Like maybe I have to improve my work. Maybe I have to make concessions. Maybe I have to like collaborate with more people, like find ways to cater to people. All these ideas are spinning around in my head. I want you to like, like what do you believe is the most important in like living with my mom is okay, for sure. And part of me is like, maybe I just surrender that idea of having to go apartment. Like maybe I'm serving my mom. Maybe like I'm helping her around the house and stuff a little bit here and there. But I'm not like the greatest person to be around all the time because I have my own perspectives and opinions, and I'm not consistently um having allowance for her perspectives because I just don't I just feel like my perspective is a little more expanded here, so I'm just gonna have to give it to you. I'm sorry. It's just it's what I feel. I need to express it, like, because if I don't express it, I feel terrible. I feel like I'm not doing my part as a conscious entity to enlighten, to like spread some kind of wisdom whenever I see it. And so I just yeah. So I have all these ideas. I wonder um what it is, what would be the thing that would allow me to have the life I prefer. I don't know.
Yeah, no, these are all good things to talk about. And the first thing is, when it comes to it, a lot of people who are in your generation and your age group are having the exact same problems. We got someone in the comment who said that they're 34, living with their moms, haven't been able to support themselves. This is not uncommon. I know a lot of people in a lot of the higher millennial to even Gen Z that are having a hell of a time. The world system is different. That's one thing, but the passion thing is an important thing. So here's the big question. Is independence more important than your desire to not have a job? And when you look at jobs, are you looking at jobs with a perspective that only jobs you could get that are not within your frame of reference now or your level of excitement now, not ever able to be exciting? Because those are two things that right off the bat, if you have an answer that's resistant, it'll be hard to get out of the loop. If you say, well, being independent is not an important thing at all, but also being, around my mom is great, but it also can be contentious at times. Then you've got a double whammy there. You've got resistance on both sides, and if you can't see any job that you could ever have that you have the ability to do that wouldn't feel fun, then you're going to have to continue on your passion. So the thing is, the first thing that jumps out to me, and of course, take it as you will, grain of salt. From my experience with Treb and Ardiv, they've always shared with me, because I myself personally did this all the time when I first started connecting with Treb and channeling. I felt the need to share those perspectives with other people too. And sharing them is beautiful. You get to say what's in your heart and bring it out into the world and share. But there can be a level of that goes almost to a point where you're stepping on the toes of a person's sovereignty or their soul desire. Like with my own family and Christianity, me and my dad would have hours and hours of talks about it. And I can't wrap my head around why this extremely smart person who really loves everything in life and loves the pleasures of life can also see that, a book that was written 10,000 years ago that says, the don't kill and don't do that was also right next to you can't have more than 10 sheep. And if you have a slave, they have the right to ask for their freedom, but also you can keep them. I mean, these are things that didn't make sense. And my dad was so smart, such a smart man. And I was like, you can't see the problems there. And he always did, and he always had an intelligent answer. So that's why we were able to talk for hours. But still, I always
Yeah.
felt the need to tell him, I don't think that's right. But that was really stepping on sovereignty. And the one thing I found, especially by being a parent, the hardest thing in the world is to let those that you love create for themselves, just like you want to create for yourselves. And if that means, hey, this is what I believe, okay, this is what you believe, can we agree that we're not going to agree, but respect each other's beliefs on those? That usually is the least resistant way to handle those things, because it doesn't give contention, it doesn't make someone feel judged, and you yourself don't give out judgment energy or receive it from them, which means you're on a healthier path. I mean, if that decision to stay with your mom remains, that would be the one thing I would say, maybe to start right up front. That's something you control instantly and quickly. The other thing I would say is passion is great. And before we leave, I want to get you to share the names of the games on Steam and the books and all that stuff. But when you're doing these projects, are you feeling truly excited about them? Are you feeling excited at the financial return on them? Because those are also two different things.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's my I wouldn't be doing them as much unless I knew I was going to make some sort of compensation from it. Otherwise, I would be doing them. Oh yeah, it's like a side hobby or something.
Okay, and so the interest in the financials, what drives the creative nature behind it?
Some of it, like I want to say not all of it, definitely not, because I'm telling my story. I'm telling like I'm trying to enlighten people with expanded knowledge and stuff. I'm just really focused on the desire of money right now because I have never been able to obtain it.
Sure, sure. And that's the one thing. The energy behind the intention to create, if it is created with money, it doesn't mean that it will be bad. It just depends on your experience and exchange with money. If you're looking at money as an evil thing that creates systematic problems for certain groups of people in the world, or for only people who aren't billionaires, then
Yeah.
it comes with a lot of negative attachment already. If you see it as just one generic or general
Yeah.
tool, it's a little healthier. But that's one part of it. The other part, you can create with a desire to make money, but also every bit of that thing has to be exciting. And this is where I've had problems with my own life. I love this. I love channeling. I
I know, it's
don't
so cool
love
you make a living out of this. I think that's like the coolest thing ever, that you can get compensation from doing this kind of work.
I appreciate that, and I do too. But for me, I feel very extremely lucky to be able to do that and be supported by people. But there's also a part of that that I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy looking at my email and seeing 100 emails that I've got to go through and read when I
Oh
don't feel
yeah.
like I have the time, or setting up an event, spending 6 or 7 hours handing out flyers in the town we're at, or the amount of phone calls and wheelings and dealings that we have to make for events and people to shoot cameras and record audio. All of those things aren't very fun for me.
Of course.
And every time I've had to put my own personal energy into it, there was always some resistance, whether it's returned financially, whether it's bumps in the event or in the thing that I'm doing, or whether it's just a slowness of how the income would come into me. But every time someone who is more excited to deal with that aspect of it dealt with it, or there was a way for me not to have to deal with that, then it always came in quicker, smoother, and without resistance, or without as much resistance. And the reason that happened is because I'm not engaging in things that I don't like just so that I can receive money. If I And this is something I'm still trying to do, find a person who deals with all of that for us and be able to still financially sustain the household and pay them and put money in the bank. And that's just something that hasn't worked extremely well for us at all. And that's still part of the issue of the energy with exchange. the system itself is very screwed up. The kind of stigma that comes with someone who's 30 who lives with their parents is horrible. People just in one country below us live multiple generations in one household, and they tend to be much happier and whole because they have the people they love the most with them all the time. They're not crunched. When you
Yeah.
have 6 or 8 people living in a house and everyone's putting in money, then you're not paying $1,500 for rent every month. Each person's
Right.
paying 300 and everyone has something to spend. So it's the belief systems that you have on all of these things that you really have to look at. And the 10 steps that I shared earlier, I'll share it again in the chat. I really think that that's a tool that you can go through with each of these things where you're finding hiccups, and kind of do that. But it really is a lot of subconscious conditioning that we have from our parents, from society, from the way things should be, but also our own feelings of guilt that we have. There is a way to get a job in a standard form in the way that you might not have resonated with before and still be excited to do that, but it's harder to do that back then without a work history, right? Because that's the biggest problem in getting one of those
Yeah.
jobs that you would enjoy and like.
That's also my problem too. I have
Right.
no work history.
Yep. So that's one of the biggest problems. But right now, they are paying $17 for McDonald's workers because they can't keep people in jobs. Everyone since the pandemic has stayed home. They've learned how to live without going to that job that they hate. So they've given up. So this opens up a lot more things.
Yeah.
What's your favorite video game? What's your favorite gaming company? Is there any that you enjoy or that you like that you would say, hey, I would work for those guys if they offered me a job?
Oh, for sure. Like maybe, I don't know. For me, I've been like trying to make like non-violent, like better, higher consciousness games that are not exactly promoting the violent nature of man and humanity, basically. And so
Sure.
I would have to develop that company or find some sort of indie company, but I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's something out there.
Well, there's a lot of role-playing games. There's a lot of like strategy games that don't always involve violence. That's the one thing I've resorted to with my own free time in the last couple of years. When I do have time, I'll jump on and play a game or something. And I don't mind playing some of the games that do have violence and things in it, not because I like violence or glorify it, but I've been through enough of it in my life personally where it doesn't really affect me that way. And it's actually a good way for me to kind of vent out any of those really hardcore frustrations or anger so that I don't end up boiling up to that degree.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so I mean, it can serve its purpose, but I understand too your desire to do that.
Yeah, for me, like like I would play Lost Ark, the new game, and I was just like blowing people in the hamburger meat with my Ranger shooting gun, and I would meditate. It was actually really fun, but while meditating, I would see visions of that, and my dream states was just violent dreams. I'm like, oh my god, this is affecting me on a subconscious level. I had no idea.
Yeah,
So
it does.
I had to quit it, but
Yeah,
well,
no, the first couple months I played the games when I first started, because I hadn't touched a video game since I was 21. And before the baby came, I was getting a little stir crazy. Kalina was sick. The first game I played was one of the old games that I had played was Grand Theft Auto 2. So I was like,
oh,
oh, Grand Theft Auto
classic.
5. Yeah, and then I'm out playing that, and it did affect me very, very heavily. I noticed myself getting more agitated, so I ended up having to quit playing that. So I get it's part of the programming in the games too to
Yeah.
create in that environment. But being a game developer is something where you can create extremely beautiful things.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever seen the game where there's a guy in a pot who pulls himself up a mountain with a
Yes.
sledgehammer. Yes.
Getting over it or something like that.
Getting over it. That's it. This is an indie developer who created a non-violent game, a very
Yeah.
mental game, and a game with some good lessons on hardships and overcoming them. This is something that you could do, and it sounds like you've already done some games, which
Yeah, just by myself though.
Yeah, but these types of places exist, and finding that job now will probably be easier than it ever was. So if that's ever something you want to do, if you say, you know what, maybe I should just see what it's like to be on my own for a little while, or try to get more money saved so that if the time comes, and do that too. But following your passion, there's nothing wrong with that. I would say the intention behind that needs to be as clear as it can be, with the energy behind um, the reason why you're doing it. As long as you're doing it because you're enjoying it and it truly is a passion for you, even if a desire behind the passion is also to make money, then you can get that clearly. Just keep working on that, and just be mindful of the judgments that you have on yourself. That is a heavy resistor to the experience of opening up and manifesting, probably one of the biggest. And mindful of how you're judging others with interactions. I think that'll go a long way. And the 10 steps too, I think it'll be a really great thing. I can't remember. Yeah, I just pasted that too. It's in there, and I'll make sure to tag it on the YouTube link. So check the 10 steps out, listen to the video, and if you ever get a chance to go through those 10 steps and work some of these things that you're feeling in the moment where you're feeling them, and then jump to them, see what you can come up with. And if you can come up with anything good, next time we're on, give a call up and we'll talk about it.
Wow, that sounds good, man. I appreciate the interchange. Bless upon you, Rob Gauthier, and your family and everyone you interact with. You're an amazing person.
Oh, thank you, Jaron. You got a great energy. Names of the games on Steam, names of the books. Please share that too before we go.
Okay, I'll just give the Steam name. The you can find on Steam. It's called Path of Vidya, PATH of Vidya, VIDYA. It's a free-to-play game. I try to make it as non-violent as possible. It's sort of like a speech kind of RPG role-playing indie game that anyone can play. Free to play.
Beautiful. Anything else you want to share before we jump off?
That's it, man. I appreciate the time so much.
Absolutely, Jaron. Thank you for calling. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for sharing your love, and thank you for being here. We'll talk to you again, brother.
Later.
All right, everybody. Jaron's amazing. All of you guys are amazing. Thank you guys for calling in tonight. We ran a little over. I planned to go 90 minutes, but we went a little over. I want to thank all of you guys for being here, for being a part of this. This is hugely meaningful for me too, because there is an extreme amount of desire for me to exchange with people, to let people speak, to let people share their own energy, and to let people know that there's place in everybody's life for the development of yourself, for the growth of yourself, for the enlightenment evolution inside of you. It's what it's all about, guys. I love all of you so much. Oh, Kalina, hello. I didn't even see that you commented. My sweetheart, Kalina, my lovely wife. Hello. I didn't even see you commented till just now. I love you too, sweetie. All of you guys, thank you for being here. I love you guys so much. Thanks for being around as we build more to the network, and as we get this specific show on a very tight schedule, and we start simulcasting it into the network YouTube channel that we had previously, or whatever other places. We're going to keep you guys in the loop of that. We're going to let you know how it goes. Also, as far as announcements for the day, we have the channeling class groups every month, the last Saturday of each month. You can go to the website etwhisper.com/book-online, and you can go there, and it's a event for 3 hours in the midday, so that every part of the world almost you can access that, and you can join us 3 hours live for learning how to channel. We're doing that. The next one is going to be April 30th. And also, we've changed some of the things in our booking for personal sessions. We have group sessions, 4 people, 30 minutes each, share a time slot for 2 hours, and we just channel through all that. And we're going to have a lot more announcements coming up. If you're not a member of our Patreon, you can go to a Patreon. There's 2 different tiers. You can get that. Oh, my word. Angela, thank you so much for the donation, for the super sticker. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it with all my heart, Angela. Thank you. And if you guys want to join Patreon, go to patreon.com/etwhisper, and you can join either. You'll get access to 4 years of archives, which has 2 channelings a month. So minimally, what's 40 times 12? 48 channelings or more there that are exclusive, that never been shared fully publicly, except for maybe a couple of them. Lots of archives, and we're getting together a list of that archive so that people have access to what's being talked about on all of those. Anyway, guys, we've been here long enough. I love you guys. Follow my heart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us in the Enlightenment Evolution Hour on the Enlightenment Evolution Network. And we will bring you news of the network as soon as we can. Love you guys so much. Thank all of you for being here, and we'll see you on the other side. Love you guys, and good night.